The Opinionated Idiot.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Because I am having major microphone issues. Okay, you can hear me now. All right, we're going to try to fumble our way through the show. I've tried messing around with my microphone settings today, and it's just not working out the way that I want it to. Hang on one second. Of the room. Can you hear me now? Can you still hear me? I just want to make sure you can hear me. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Because I've had major microphone issues all day. I shouldn't have messed with my settings today. I tried working on this. You can hear me. Okay, we're going to go on through the show here. Can you hear the sound effects? So let me know if you can hear the sound effect cheering. Can you hear the cheering? Say cheering, yes. All right, great. We've got it. I don't know if this is going to work or not. All right, perfect. I was messing around with my sound settings today. Got everything going. Awesome, great. All right, we can have a show now. I've been stressed out all day about this because my settings have been crazy and I'm so ill prepared, and I forgot my tablet, so I'm gonna go off topic here. Let me bring up, I'm so sorry, I'm so ill prepared tonight. I had like a vision of what I wanted to do in the show today, and it just completely fell apart. I got sidetracked, everything's falling, I'm fumbling. Not a good start to the show, but we're gonna try to get this going this evening and try to do our best to fumble our way through this. But the show must go on. The show must go on. Thank you. I love all the chat. The mods are up here. I want to welcome everybody in to another edition of the Opinionated Idiot YouTube live show. And I'll make sure that I fast advance this video on the replay and start it here for all of you. So skip all that crap before and start right now. I'm going to try to pull out a 3-hour banger tonight if I can. See how I feel. See how the show goes. See how tuned the audience is. Well, I am confused. I don't know what's going on. We get news yesterday that Bryan Kohberger could be implicated in Dana Smithers' disappearance and death. We heard that his family was brought in to testify in front of a grand jury. And then today, we get some news, some tweets. Brian Entin tweets out today. And let me enlarge the screen here so we can see. Brian Entin today. Stroud Area Regional Police Department in Pennsylvania has received a statement saying there is no evidence that Dana Smithers' case is connected to Bryan Kohberger. We reported yesterday that he has a strong alibi. Why the grand jury still wanted to question Kohberger's parents, we don't know. And I'm going to click into this here. And it says the Stroud Area Regional Police, and this was by the actual police department itself. The Stroud Area Regional Police Department is aware that the many current reports, news articles in which various media outlets have reported connections between the SARPD's Dana Smithers missing person investigation and Idaho murder suspect Bryan Kohberger. The SARPD has no evidence, in capital letters, that Dana Smithers' disappearance is in any way, in capital letters, tied to the Ohio murder suspect Bryan Kohberger. I'm super confused. I mean, we did know that we heard of an alibi. We did hear of a possible connection. I did a show yesterday about Dana Smithers' disappearance and how this news came out, 24 hours ago that he could be implicated in this horrible crime. Stacey Ann, Dana's sister, was watching the show yesterday. She shared some amazing photos of Dana. We brought those up. I'm just confused. Like, why would they bring Kohberger's parents in to testify in front of a grand jury about Dana Smithers? Now, I've seen, and let's go through here. I think it's good to kind of bring up some of the reply tweets. And of course, everybody on Twitter can get nasty and just kind of says what they want to say. And so we got one tweet that says, Brian, you don't get just to say, oopsie, my bad, and all is well, stop spreading lies. You guys just harmed your reputation with the public. Even further, I suggest you talk to your source. Oof. And then this tweet here says, reply says, then I suggest that the Stroudsburg PD dig deeper. Dana Smithers' disappearance being connected to Kohberger is very real possibility. Any alibi he has is worthless. I imagine his parents is covering for him. That's not an alibi. That's a cover-up. Brian, you should share about Maddie May Day. And yes, today is Maddie May Day. If you haven't seen this flyer has been posted around, and it's about doing an act of kindness. And it's May 25th year for Maddie May Day. And don't find parents testifying benign or a nothing burger. Lawyers don't ask questions unless already know the answers. Prosecution demands alibi from Bryan Kohberger. Wow. Make a statement not naming him involved in the case yet. Autopsy's results due 1 month, still not released. I still find it strange that his parents were brought in to be questioned. Why? The grand jury just doesn't bring you in for no reason. Now, I've seen some reports out there, maybe, and just maybe, because where Dana Smithers was found, it was found, not too far. Her body was found not too far from Bryan Kohberger's parents' house. So maybe they brought them in to, possibly just give a statement as to where Bryan was on a specific day or dates. That was something that was thrown out there as well. But again, I am very confused about this. Super, super confused. BK goes on to say, are you sure they testified to a grand jury? I'm hearing that it's not even true. Well, obviously it's true. We saw them going into court. Make no sense. They would not have testified for no reason. There has to be some type of connection. One likely reason may be to have their testimony under oath regarding that alibi, and that could be as well too. They question his parents because he's in jail and they need some proof of his alibi, in my opinion. The grand jury wanted to question them because their son is going on trial for already killing 4 people. I'm guessing it's to get his alibi, and why would they release this info then? That's silly. I like this one. News Nation seems to ruin people's lives with all this misinformation. Think about Kohberger's parents and sisters that still need to walk in that town. Stop with your info not that you're not sure about. I was hoping her ID was found in his apartment. And then someone tweeted at Tragos Law, says perhaps in the happened in their neighborhood, because it happened in their neighborhood, they could have been witnesses not having anything to do with Bryan. Guilty or not, Bryan is not going to get a fair trial because all of the leaks and the lies. Xana, Maddie, Kaylee, Ethan deserve so much better than this. Dana's sister reported BK as a suspect to LE. That is interesting. Now, I haven't heard any information that would lead me to believe that, but that is very, very interesting in this case. And it could have possibly been, hey, we know that this guy has ties to my area. We know this guy just got implicated in a quadruple homicide in Idaho. Maybe Dana's sister did make a report, did call and say, hey, maybe you should look into this. I know that the court of public opinion was saying to look into this as because it was just such close connections. And then back when Kohberger was initially arrested, there were some rumors or reports that were out there that did say that they were looking into two cold cases or similar cases in and around his area. And then that report came out, and then there was a report that was saying that wasn't happening. So it's like, what is it? What is going on with all of this? Damage is done already, thanks to you and all your colleagues. The fact that he had a strong alibi was buried in your story. You don't just get questioned by the grand jury for no reason. And yes, I did see a report yesterday saying he had a strong alibi. Some just didn't want to see it. And that's what it is as well, too. In the world that we live in, this strange world that we live in now, people will perceive and process what they want to in information. They may see it one way compared to the way that it's actually written. We see a lot of that now. Someone said, I wonder if one of the IDs found inside the glove box, a box at Kohberger's parents' house, could be Dana's. I find it awfully quick that they questioned the parents so soon after finding the body. I think they needed to find the body before setting things in motion. Just speculation. And that is the question. Let's see here. The press release. This is wild. This is in my area, and I remember when this woman went missing. You are a great reporter. People have really trusted you. Look at your comments. That is blowing up in your face with all the grasp at straws in this story. It's not worth it. See pinned tweet, Bryan. I call them. Feel free to call them yourself. Let's see. I was going to call in with a tip that was a smokescreen for a real suspect, but it's mute now. Otherwise, reach out. They must have had some evidence tying to this case, articles to it, around the area, cell phone data to show him near there or something. It'll be interesting trial for sure. These poor victims. And that's a very interesting point, because I actually want to point this out about cell phone data. And AZ and one of my moderators and Laura actually have been talking a lot about Kohberger's cell phone data, and that specifically could be this situation. Maybe they did get a warrant for his cell phone data in and around that area, and maybe his phone did ping in and around the area where Dana was or where her body was found. So maybe they brought his parents in and asked them, where was he on this specific day? Was he with you? Did you know his whereabouts? Did you know where he was going? It possibly could be that. We know that there's been a litany of information with cell phone data in the Idaho murders, and certainly this could, just be another thing. And they got the search warrants, looked at his cell phone data and said, hey, can you account for where he was? So again, I just wanted to bring some attention to this as well. I do have an article I'm going to pull up. I do plan on getting into, let's see, we're going to do this Dana Smithers update. We're going to talk a little Pappa Rodgers. There was some information that came up about Google history searches that I want to talk about. Bryan Kohberger's behavior during the holidays. that's some of the reporting in Dateline. We're going to talk about the victims and family attending the arraignment and the hearing. There's new security booths that have been put up in and around King Road. And we're going to talk about, did Bryan Kohberger reveal his defense during his standing silent during his arraignment? And we're also going to talk about Kerri Rawson is going to talk about the parallels between Bryan Kohberger and BTK, her dad, and the parallels to standing silent, because they both did that. Let's get into this article here. Again, I'm so ill prepared tonight. I'm sorry. I feel like I'm really stumbling through the show, but hopefully that Diet Coke kicks in and we can keep ripping through here. So it goes on to say, from Newsweek, police address Bryan Kohberger's connection to Dana Smithers' death. Pennsylvania Police Department has released a statement strongly denying rumors of Idaho murder suspect Bryan Kohberger being involved in the death of a Pennsylvania woman. Bryan Kohberger, 28, was recently indicted by a grand jury of 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of felony burglary for allegedly killing 4 University of Idaho students last November. Various news reports reported to have connected him to the disappearance of a death of Dana Smithers, a 45-year-old woman whose remains were discovered in a wooded area of Monroe County, Pennsylvania, last month, following her being missing since May 22nd. Now, we know that she went missing in May 2022, May 22nd.
Bing, bing, bong, bong,
Yeah.
bing, bing, bing.
Yeah. May 2022. We know that Kohberger moved out to Idaho in June, sometime in June. It was probably more towards the end of June. So I think people were aligning that as well. And if you go back and look at the PCA, they talked about Kohberger kind of roaming in and around Monroe County. And we thought that that was very interesting. Like, why would they put that in there? Why was that a big sticking point of putting that into the PCA? Well, when we started connecting the dots, Laura and I started talking, say, hey, I wonder if there's a possibility that he could be involved, maybe allegedly, in this crime. But now there's been reporting that, yesterday, like I said, they're saying maybe. Now they're saying no. So it's like, what is it? And now we know his parents went in to testify in front of the grand jury. What is it? We're all confused. So I'll go on to read the article. It says, it is the same area where Kohberger was arrested in December, and where his parents live. The Stroudsburg Area Regional Police Department is aware of the many current reports, news articles, in which various media outlets have reported connections between the SARPD Dana Smithers missing person investigation and the Idaho murder suspect Bryan Kohberger. The Stroud Area Regional Police Department wrote Thursday on Facebook that SARPD has no evidence that Dana Smithers' disappearance is in any way tied to the Ohio murder suspect Bryan Kohberger. We have the official press release off Facebook here posted. So Kohberger's father was reportedly scheduled to testify before a Monroe County grand jury on Thursday as part of the sealed proceeding, according to sources familiar with the situation who spoke to CNN. Kohberger's mother reportedly previously testified. It's unclear what potential crimes were discussed. Both parents also reportedly attempted to quash the subpoena through an attorney, though the efforts were rejected due to Pennsylvania law allowing judges to release witness testimony transcripts to other law enforcement agencies. The 2 individuals' testimony could potentially be forwarded to law enforcement in Idaho in part of their investigation. CNN never mentioned that the Smithers investigation specifically, though others like News Nation, Brian Enton, and Pennsylvania Eyewitness News did. Well, Brian actually said that there was a strong alibi. He didn't say that he was implicated or he did it. He did leave open the window as saying that there was a strong alibi. Now, I respect Brian. I think he goes into all these cases, and his reporting is very good. I think that he genuinely cares about the cases that he reports on, and gives us good factual information. Now, listen, us here, I guess I can consider myself a source of the media. You all come here for news. We make mistakes. We're not perfect. I'm definitely not perfect. I make a lot of mistakes, but you learn from that, and you move on, and shit's gonna happen sometimes. But I don't think he specifically was saying, when I went back and read his tweet, was like he is the one that did this. It's not even close to that. So it goes on to say retired FBI agent Jennifer Coffindaffer told Newsweek via phone that between the Stroudsburg response and the reports regarding his parents' testimony in Smithers' case, something is not adding up. Why are the parents being called separately, said Coffindaffer, whose nearly 80% of her career involved in grand jury investigations. You have witnesses back to back so they don't talk to one another after they leave a grand jury room. And secondly, the information from CNN is that the mother has already testified and the father will be testifying. So that gives me pause. If they've already said that they unequivocally are not involved, why are they still calling another parent to testify? Again, this is what's very confusing about this. If there's no implication, if there's nothing involved, a grand jury just doesn't call you and say, "Hey, can you just maybe come down and just talk to us?" There has to be a significant amount of evidence there to implicate you, or implicate, in this case, a family member, to have pull in and say, "Hey, we need to talk to you about some things." I mean, it just doesn't say, "Hey, could you just casually maybe stroll down to the courthouse or wherever a grand jury meets and just have a casual conversation with us." Just doesn't happen. That's what it's so confusing. She said the testimony is likely regarding alibis as part of the broader investigation into Smithers' death, clearing potential suspects one by one as necessary. But it does murky the situation, considering law enforcement has no obligation to publicly comment on media reports, she said, adding the Strouds officials may have felt the statement was necessary to quell the hearsay. But why are they calling them if they haven't already said Kohberger's not involved? Coffindaffer said. So it's very unusual that they came out with this statement. They must believe that. But we've seen that in law enforcement before. We've seen where they've said X and then it adds up to being Z. I really do believe, though, that they believe he's not involved, but it doesn't comport with calling the parents. We go back to a tweet. It says Dana's family and loved ones have gone through a nightmare over the last year. I'm wondering where she was learning when she was found deceased, to being shoved into a massive public spotlight for speculated potential connections between Dana and BK. I can't pull that full tweet up there, but actually it's going to kind of break down her tweet here. Lauren Lee Malley, who operates Unsolved RI, dedicated to solving cases in Rhode Island, has followed the Smithers case and communicated with the victim's friends. Dana's family and loved ones have gone through a nightmare over the last year, from wondering where she was to learning she was found deceased, to being shoved into a massive public spotlight for speculative potential connections between Dana and BK. Mallory tweeted Thursday, asking others to give family privacy to grieve. I completely respect that. But it's like, it's like, I don't want to say it's I guess I want to say it's like a little too close to home. I mean, in and around that area, he's been indicted for a quadruple homicide in Idaho. He's from the specific area of where, in and around where Dana was found. I mean, the PCA states Monroe County, that he was driving through Monroe County when he got back to Pennsylvania. So, I mean, I think people just started adding a lot of things up and say, hey, this potentially could be some implication here. Mally told Newsweek via email that one of her TikTok videos from January 1st of this year generated speculation about Kohberger's potential involvement due to the case closed distance between her parents' residence and where Smithers disappeared. Dana's sister Stacy reportedly shared that information with police, and no additional information was publicly shared thereafter, and provided factual base for linking the pair. I was initially shocked by yesterday's media report that Kohberger's parents were called to testify, Mally said. It was odd seeing her name suddenly shared on so many people, and I wish she'd been shared that widely when she was missing. As someone who experienced her own mom's cold case thrown into the public eye, I can only imagine the anxiety and grief for Dana's family and feeling right now that simply reiterated Stacy's message requesting space and privacy. I commended her strength and resilience during this incredible, difficult time. We need to trust the SART PD and Dana's family will share updates as appropriate and allow investigators to do their job. So that is a little bit of an update on Dana Smithers. Stacy, if you're watching again this evening, I'm so sorry. And again, we will continue to report on Dana because it is important. And like I said, when we were talking last night in the chat, my platform is open. You have my phone number. If there's anything that you need to get out or would like to talk about, or even just tell us about Dana, we would love that. Reach out to me. You have my phone number, and we'll go from there. If you don't want to call me, of course, you can reach out to me at theopinionatedidiot@gmail.com. So we will move on here to the next topic that I wanted to get into. So there was a report, which I found very interesting, on Cuomo. Jennifer Coffindaffer came in and talked about Google search histories and what was being searched back in 2018, 19, 20, 21, and so on. Let's hear about that. And I think you're all going to find this interesting if you haven't seen this or heard of this yet.
In the Idaho investigation involving Bryan Kohberger, the suspect in the murders of 4 Idaho college students, the question is there more? We talked about that possibility, authorities investigating his role in other murders and maybe in other states. Today, we put some meat on the bones of that. There's a grand jury impaneled in Pennsylvania, not Idaho, okay? And his parents have been subpoenaed to testify. Former FBI agent and News Nation Law and Order contributor Jennifer Coffindaffer and News Nation senior national correspondent Brian Enton joined. Brian, let me start with you. What do we know?
Well, we're building off of your exclusive reporting, Chris. You reported that that Kohberger was being looked into in other murders and other cases. We now have confirmation that Bryan Kohberger's parents are testifying in front of a grand jury in Pennsylvania, and that it has something to do with a case there involving a missing woman that went missing last year. And it is an investigative grand jury, which I heard you emphasize, which is important. Because it's not a grand jury where they're looking to indict one specific person, but they are looking into the situation as a whole. We have also learned through a source close to the case.
What channels? I'm curious. You said Planting with Tracy says, I hope families decide to sue these channels. What channels? I'd be curious to see what you're talking about. Oh, I just lost the video. Damn it. Let me go grab that again. Sorry, guys. Let's see. Where is it? Oh, damn it. Bear with me 1 second here. Just pull that video back up. Fumbling through the show. Da, 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 da. All right, I got it. Fumbling through the show. Fumble, 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 fumble. All right. Let's do this again.
The Idaho have been subpoenaed to testify. Former FBI agent and News Nation Law and Order contributor Jennifer Coffindaffer and News Nation senior national correspondent Brian Enton joined. Brian, let me start with you. What do we know?
Well, we're building off of your exclusive reporting, Chris. You reported that that Kohberger was being looked into in other murders and other cases. We now have confirmation that Bryan Kohberger's parents are testifying in front of a grand jury in Pennsylvania, and that it has something to do with a case there involving a missing woman that went missing last year. And it is an investigative grand jury, which I heard you emphasize, which is important. Because it's not a grand jury where they're looking to indict one specific person, but they are looking into the situation as a whole. We have also learned through a source close to the case, Chris, that there is a strong alibi, reportedly, that Bryan Kohberger has in this situation.
Okay, appreciate you, brother. Chime in if you want to. Cough and Daffer, help me. I'm confused by this situation. And I'll tell you quickly why, and you can correct anything that I have wrong or explain the confusion. One, if he's got an alibi, I don't understand why you're putting the parents in front of the grand jury. If you're the parents, supposedly they were making legal moves to quash the subpoena. They didn't want to do this. If you have information about an alibi about your kid and a connection to a bad act, let alone a felony that could be a murder, why wouldn't you want to go in? I don't understand this. I also don't understand the use of an investigative grand jury because
yeah, I mean, regardless if there's, listen, yesterday, and that's why I wanted to talk about this. I mean, yesterday was a report. The media reported, not me. I just put their report out because we were talking about it and we were like, wow. But it's still very strange to me that even if it's not related to Dana, why would his parents go in and testify in front of a grand jury? It just doesn't make sense to me. So again, was it to establish an alibi at a specific date and time that's completely unrelated to anything that's going on? Maybe, I mean, I don't get it. Something still is very strange to me about this. And I don't think this is something that's just going to be swept under the rug. We may hear something down the line a little bit later here. But, the Strasbourg police is very adamant that it has nothing to do with Dana Smithers. And they put out that media report today. But it's just very, very interesting. I still find it very interesting.
Usually they're looking at a panoply of potential different investigations, not just one. What's your take on this?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, exactly, nail on the head for both of the first.
Planning what Tracy says, I think it was to prove he was in Washington to prove the panty person. It could be that, and that's funny that you said that too, because we were discussing that behind off air with a couple of people the other day. It could be something like that too. And Johnny's saying, could there be a case that they think he may be tied to in PA, which we're not aware of? And that was what they want to question the parents about. It's interesting that you said that because AZ has been doing a lot of research in and around of some cases in that area. And he has some really interesting information. Maybe he'll allow me to kind of share that sometime. But he's been researching a lot in and around that area. So it is interesting. There are a lot of cases, unsolved cases going around in that area that have, some inklings of what could be potentially, Kohberger could be involved. But again, allegedly we're saying that. We're not sure. Could be. I'm just speculating, giving my opinion. But it does makes things a little bit interesting. The waters are definitely getting murky. So AZ is saying share away. All right, let me get through this video and then I'll pull through kind of what he has been talking about research. I gave him kind of something like a couple of weeks ago. I said, here, go with this, see what you can find, because he's an amazing researcher. But let's do this. We'll get through this video and then I'll pull up his conversation. I'll read it out to you guys. And please, this first time over here, please make sure to subscribe, turn on that bell notification, and make sure to smash that like button. I don't know if my sound play. Did my sound play? Nothing's working today. Yeah. Nothing's
Smash!
Working. Here we go.
Smash, smash, smash.
First two. It doesn't make any sense if they have a nailed down alibi. Again, that's source information. But if it's nailed down, why are you calling on the parents? Why do you need them to say, yeah, we waved goodbye and gave him a hug and he got in a car and left? That should be proved through digital information that would be retrieved from his cell phone. And there should also be where he was staying there that was separated from where this not missing person, but actually murder took place. Remember, the body was just recently recovered. And that's why there would be an investigative grand jury convened right now to look at all the facts surrounding that.
Now, and also, why would you split them up if that's true, that the parents aren't testifying together? Now, depending on the state, you can have different rules. You guys know this, but for you at home. But in general, you know, witnesses in a grand jury are not held to secrecy. So if you split them up like that, that means they can talk to other people about the testimony. They could coordinate testimony. It's just odd. Now, Jennifer, you reminded us of something that has become much more instructive now than when we were originally playing with it back in January. Tell the audience what you fleshed out in terms of searches that you found online and why, now that we know they're looking at him for other things, become especially relevant.
Right. If you look on Google, there's particular searches that you can do to see what queries are made. So if you go into Bryan Kohberger suspect or Bryan Kohberger wanted.
Well, here we go. This is very, 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 very interesting. Who was doing these Google searches? Who would just Google search back in 2018, Bryan Kohberger suspect? Interesting stuff here.
For a period of years, going even beyond 2018, before 2018, and well before these murders, well before he was arrested. It's amazing. You see all these queries for those. Well, who would conduct those queries? But I would contend that person querying themselves, wanting to know if they're wanted, wanting to know if they are a suspect, or somebody that was thinking they could be a suspect or wanted.
Hey, thank you for watching. Please go to News Nation
Hey,
now.
thank you for watching. Oh, hey, thank you for watching. All right. Let me get into the next topic here in a second. Just going to check something really quick. Bear with me. Bear with me. Bear with me. Nothing is working. Everything is fading. Everything's broken tonight. Nothing wants to work. Yeah, this case is nuts. Frenchie says this case is nuts. All right, let me pull up what AZ has been researching. And again, everything is all alleged conversation, but I'll try to read this out to everybody. And I think there's some good and interesting points. Okay. AZ, you're okay, right? Just give me a thumbs up if you're okay if I read this. I'll wait for AZ. I think he said earlier it was okay. Let's wait to see. AZ. Give me a thumbs up, AZ. And I'll read this out. Oof, the chat's going slow tonight, huh? All right, he says go for it. Great. All right, let me bring the screen down. So look, I'm not going to be able to see the chat where I read this out. So AZ has been researching. All right, so he says, so I looked into, so there's been a couple of cases that have been talked about in and around, you know, the Kohberger area where his parents lived. So he says, I looked into Abdul Martin, whose remains were found on May 14, 2023 on the banks of the Lackawanna River. Is not identified remains. It's not the identified remains I was talking about. The ones I'm talking about were found underneath the Lackawanna River Bridge on April 18, 2023. And there's no indication that they've been identified. I find it interesting that 3 unidentified, quote, sets of remains were found in 30 days. The first being Robert Barron Sr., who is located by the FBI cast agent Michael Sabrick using 6-year-old cell site location information. I collected this information before Dana Smithers' remains were identified, so it led me to believe that if the Bridgeview Inn remains turned out to be Dana Smithers, there's a possibility that they were located using historical CSLI from BK's phone, as they had just done the exact thing 30 days prior in locating the remains of Robert Barron Sr., and has not used CAST that previous December in placing Kohberger in the vicinity of 1122 King. Just let everybody know, I have dyslexia and I stutter. So I have mild form of dyslexia. So reading for me sometimes is a little difficult if I haven't read through it, so bear with me here. I'm going to try my best. Victorine, thank you for your $2.20 super sticker. She said, hit the subscribe and like. And again, I'm trying to read a screen up here and read a screen here, but let me get through this and then I'll let you guys all marinate on this so we don't forget. In this case, in December 28th, CSLI data was used in the arrest of Bryan Kohberger, but it only went back to June 23rd, 2022. DS disappeared on May 28th, 2022. I think it's a no-brainer that law enforcement would get warrants for BK cell data in the 24-hour period surrounding Dana Smithers' disappearance. That as they initially did in Idaho, and this either would or would not place Bryan Kohberger in that area of Park Ave, Stroudsburg, on May 28th. It should be noted that Dana's house is only a block away from Glen Park, where BK allegedly used to run, and her little neighborhood is just somewhere insular in that cutoff on 3 roads from the rest of Stroudsburg by the river. In her little neighborhood is the Happy Hour Bar and Grill, Glen Park Bridgeview Inn, across the street from where she was found, and somewhat interesting, a Thai restaurant less than a mile away from Outer Park Ave. That's interesting because we know that when Bryan Kohberger was pulled over in Indiana, what was the thing that he said to the police officer? We're going to get Thai food. She was found in the woods on Park Ave. The Thai restaurant may be reached, but if it is true that Bryan Kohberger used to run in Glen Park, something attracted him to that neighborhood. It's 15 miles away from his parents' house in Effort, Pennsylvania. Surely there's a place to run closer to Effort. And he's asking, who drives an hour round trip to run in a park? Was it simply that her neighborhood's a good place for a drink at Happy Hour Bar and Grill, followed by some creeping and peeping? He did go to a technical high school not far from Stroudsburg, and there are various boxing and martial art gyms within a mile of Glen Park. Maybe that's how he initially discovered it as a place to run and become acquainted with that little neighborhood. Or he was also in Northampton, or he also went to Northampton Community College in DeSalles, which aren't far either. Did he frequent that bar in her neighborhood? There were accounts of him using heroin as late as 2017, when he would have been 22 or 23. Did he use the Bridgeview Inn as a flop during that period? His friend's sister, I'm going to redact her name, blank blank, said that BK once tricked her in 2013 into driving him around to score heroin. I'd love to know where she took him. Who is selling heroin to high school kid anyway? One wrench in the hypothesis that her remains were found using Bryan Kohberger's cell data is that reports say the remains found by a borough a borough employee. I suppose that technically a Stroudsburg police officer would be a borough employee, and there are various ways to make it fit sensibly, but it's a little odd. So in closing, the initial question stands in regards to the identity of the remains found under the Lackawanna Bridge on April 18th, 2023. And that's an amazing write-up. And I said in response, well, since he's been cleared in Dana Smithers' disappearance or death, do you think that these cases are relevant to BK anymore? And he says they absolutely are 100%. So that's just a speculation, a little bit of a write-up and research. AZ is an amazing researcher, and I value everything that he puts into the show here. Really good stuff. And I know, it's tough sometimes when I stutter and get through things, but hopefully you get kind of the gist of what's going on if you want to go back and, investigate any of that yourself. But AZ, thank you for sharing that. Thank you for allowing me to share that. That's an impeccable amount of research that you did, and a lot of date connecting and area connecting. And I think it does stand to say that, something with that cell phone data is very interesting. And then again, I just still find it very interesting that they pulled Bryan Kohberger's parents in to testify in front. I mean, like I was saying, a grand jury just doesn't pull you in and say, "Hi, can we talk to you for a minute?" We just want to say hi. So all good stuff there. Let me get to this $5 super chat. Regina says, I'm a teacher, and if you put green film or green lenses on glasses, it can help read in some studies. You read and speak great. We are all here because you're real. Thank you so much, Regina. I appreciate that so much.
Straight cash, homie.
Thank you. Appreciate you. All right. So let's go on to... All right, so let's get into Pappa Rodgers. Pappa Rodgers, or Rodgers, that's why everybody's here. They came in here. And what I want to do is talk a little bit about Dateline and kind of bring up the fact that on Dateline, there was an implication that they think that a source told them that they feel very strong that Bryan Kohberger was this character, Pappa Rodgers, in this Facebook group. And I'm sure you all are familiar with that. So what I want to do is I have an article here that kind of takes us to where we are now with Pappa Rodgers into, yes, sent from my iPad, into where we are now, and to where we are now, and then just kind of back up and go and get a little bit familiar with what happened in and around that mysterious screen name. And there was another one, I think it was Inside Looking, which was on, I believe, in a Reddit group. So let's do this. Let's pull up this article here. It was posted on the 23rd, I believe, May 23rd. Yep, 2023. And it goes into, I'm just going to go down into the part where it says particularly Dateline. So that's a little bit more of the more important part of the article that we want to get into. And I'm going to just, let me enlarge this a little bit here. Not that big. Come on. So it says particularly to Dateline. Friday, Dateline aired a special titled The Killings on King Road, in which a series published unreleased details regarding Kohberger, 28, and the 4 victims, Mogan, Gonzalez, Coronado, and Chapin. Most notably, the show reported that Kohberger purchased a K-bar knife and the sheath from Amazon several months before the murders on King Road. The model K-bar sounds familiar to followers of the case, and is specifically a K-bar sheath left behind at the scene that contained Kohberger's DNA that helped lead investigators to arrest him. It is likely officials now have a record of Kohberger's purchasing the most critical piece of evidence thus far, or that the public knows of. Excuse me. Dateline also lent credence to popular theory among internet sleuths that Kohberger created an anonymous Facebook account to post facts about the murders. Meet Pappa Rodgers. According to the special, law enforcement officers are convinced that Kohberger is behind the account. As Outkit previously reported, the alias had several specific predictions about the murder case before Bryan Kohberger was arrested. Rodgers' psychic-like predictions were as if he was had inside access to the investigation or was at the scene of the crime. It was Pappa Rodgers who first mentioned the infamous sheath. And he did so 1 month before police ever announced they had discovered a sheath inside the murder house. So Coffindaffer tweeted, I had followed Pappa Rodgers' comments with intrigue. This comment was of particular interest after the release of the PCA. The comments just seemed to hit home. And you can go down here and see kind of a piece of this Facebook group, University of Idaho Murders case discussion, and there it is. It's Pappa Rodgers, and it says, of the evidence released, the murder weapon has been consistent of a large fixed blade knife. This leads me to believe they found the sheath. This evidence was released prior to the autopsies. It's just crazy. But the account gained attention. Pappa Rodgers' prediction became less accurate. Sleuths believe that was intentional to steer the investigation towards false conclusions. Doing a deep dive on Pappa Rodgers' post shows he was probing, gauging perception, steering public to false conclusions. He was posting feverishly daily, seeking attention, cues like research project, 90%, it's BK. And here are some of those tweets here. Regardless of what's been released, I believe this was a sexually motivated crime. Did the killer drive, walk, or some combination of the both to the scene? A knife is a very risky weapon. If you know you're going to murder 4 people, do we think the killer, and it got cut off there. Another one says, I feel like the white car isn't relevant. Fight me. Law enforcement is no longer to solving this than 30 days ago. And then it says Pappa Rodgers is wiped from Facebook. Pappa Rodgers had frantically commented on a case for over a month. Then he stopped. Why did he stop? Get this, immediately after Kohberger was arrested. Did the person behind the account lose access to Facebook, lose interest in the case, or was he arrested? On one more technical note, the Facebook account likely wouldn't play a role in prosecution. They probably won't need it. In addition to the sheath, authorities have Kohberger's cell phone pinged near the crime location 12 different times. Police also seized hair samples, fabric with dark red stains, and a single black glove from Kohberger's Washington apartment. Sorry, I had to clear something. I have like a hair or something in my mouth.
Bing, bing, bong, bong, bing, bing, bing.
Circumstantial evidence is enough to convict a murderer, and the DNA-covered sheath puts Bryan Kohberger and maybe Pappa Rodgers at the scene of the quadruple murder on King Road. Very well-written article. I thought, it was covered what we got into with what Dateline was saying. They say, the sources say they're confident. There's another article I found, but it says here, it goes into more of Coffindaffer talking about. Coffindaffer said that with those who believe, and this article is back from January 7, 2023. So this was being talked about in January. Did Idaho murder suspect join online discussions before the arrest? Did Idaho murder suspect Bryan Kohberger join online discussions before arrest? Was Pappa Rodgers on Facebook in inside looking on Moscow Murders Reddit group, the accused man? Both accounts disappeared on the day of Kohberger's arrest as users shared information that only the killer could have known. A former FBI investigator has alluded to the PhD murder suspect Bryan Kohberger, accused of slaying 4 Idaho college students, have joined online groups discussing the man's arrest last week. Coffindaffer said that she had been following comments on Facebook user with the handle Pappa Rodgers, who, along with the Redditor of the handle Inside Looking, making speculations about the murders that turned out to be true. In an archive about two online personas who frequent discussions about a brutal slaying, both users accurately pointed out the timelines of the killing and the fact that the police found a knife sheath with the suspect's DNA all before the details were publicly revealed. Both users appeared to repeatedly insist that their speculations were accurate, and they were both accused of being a real killer in the respective groups of former agent told the Daily Mail. Coffindaffer sided with those who believe that at least one of the accounts belonged to Kohberger, 28, who's maintained his innocence, and former FBI agent also described the uncanny reference to accounts that only killers could have known. I'm going to do this since this has been kind of a really crazy thing. Let me put a poll up here. Do you think that BK is PR? Let's find out. Let's engage the audience. Let's do this. If I get to, there's 200 and almost 275 people watching right now. If I get the chat to 150 likes, I will gift out a free membership. A free membership. All right. Banfield and New Nation mentioned about Pappa Rodgers, who made comments on Facebook. He seemed to have known a lot about the affidavit. Also used an unknown Russian soldier at his profile picture, maybe due to Moscow or Moscow. Now, he just completely disappeared. Was he Bryan Kohberger? How did Pappa Rodgers know about the sheath before the affidavit was released? Of the evidence released, the murder weapon has been consistent as a large fixed blade knife. This leads me to believe that they found the sheath. The evidence was released prior to the autopsies. We're so close to 150. Brian Enton, have you done any research into the possible Brian having a Facebook account with the name Pappa Rodgers? There's some weird shit that this person is posting in groups about the case on Facebook. I wonder if he is behind the account. If we get to 7, it's just 7 more likes, I'm going to gift out a membership. A membership. We're going to give a membership. If you haven't already, please smash the like button. Smash, smash, smash the like button. My sounds are not working tonight.
Smash, smash,
delayed.
smash.
Who was behind Pappa Rodgers and inside looking? He drove his own car, carried his own phone, and didn't clip it to his sheath tight. Didn't clip in his sheath tight enough. I also do believe he could have left digital trails, she wrote in a tweet. He's a hot mess, intelligent with no common sense, equals a criminal bound to be caught. All right, we're at 150 likes. Thank you, Chosen. I appreciate you up there. It's tough when I'm reading. It's tough to catch up on the chat when I'm reading. I just bang the chat out here. Let's gift a membership away. Someone's going to get a free membership. If I can get to what I need to get to here. I'm going to do a free membership. Free membership. That'll get you into the Discord group. After the show, I'll update the link on the community page, and you will be allowed to join the Discord group if you would like. So someone just became a member, a free member, a member. So Nikki is now a member of the group. All right. The scrutiny in the online discussion groups comes as Kohberger was denied bail and prosecutors revealed the DNA was found in the sheath laying next to one of the victims' bodies. In the popular Moscow Murders Reddit group, the user Inside Looking, who had since deleted the account, made several speculations about the murder as police remain quiet about the full details of the murders. One of the posts read, "Killer," God, all these ads. "Killer parked behind the house, approached property through tree line, entered sliding door, and left it open." Commented, "Murderers and exit the sliding door. One knife, according to coroner's statement. Time of murder approximately 3:20 a.m. to 3:40 a.m. according to car fleeing scene on camera on Highway 8, approximately 3:45 a.m. Left skid marks upon exit." That's very interesting. I never heard anything about skid marks. Inside Looking also accurately pointed out the pictures of the shoe print police were investigating belong to the suspect. The prints do not match those of the victims or anyone in the house, leading investigators to believe they were left by the murderer. They also insisted that the white Hyundai Elantra would be the key to cracking the case, predicting that it would lead police to the suspect. Case Baby says, I was able to save and dissect every single post made by Reddit user Inside Looking over the last 48 hours. That is nuts. That must have been a lot of information. Still lots of pieces to connect and share. And let's see this, what she's got here. Holy smokes. Look at all the freaking clips that she took. Holy shit.
Bing, bing, bong, bong, bing, bing, bing.
What the fuck? Holy moly. That's a lot. That is a lot. Let's see. The user also insisted that the White Honda launcher would be key to cracking the case, predicting that it would lead police to the suspect.
Steven!
Amid their speculations, Inside Looking appeared to draw attention to themselves, with many remarking about details post, commenting, the Reddit user, dude is solving his own crime. Psycho. Some have pointed out that the profile picture for Inside Looking features a person dressed in all black, wearing gloves and a headlamp. Similar incident occurred on Facebook using Pappa Rodgers, a member of University of Idaho murder case discussion group. Let's look at the poll, see where everybody's at. Wow, it's almost split down the middle. I asked, do you think that BK is Pappa Rodgers? 55% yes and 45% no. Wow, 100 votes so far. Reba just gifted her membership. We got a new member. Frenchie has become a new member to the group. Congratulations. All right. Let's see. Quote says, we are all parts of his study. Rodgers appeared to insist that the sheath was real and even butted heads with other members about it, who accused him of communicating like a serial killer. An admin of the group later clarified that despite Rodgers' apparently authority in the group, he was never an admin or a moderator. Christine Cameron wrote, he was on her and argued insistently with people and said some really creepy stuff and posted similar questions to Bryan's crime questions. We removed Pappa Rodgers at 7:10 the evening before Bryan's arrest. That's nuts. He created a group and had 6 people in it. No one has heard from Pappa Rodgers since the arrest. Post another member in the group. I was getting chills listening to and reading the affidavit about the sheath being found with DNA because he was in groups commenting. He kept referring to the sheath, which was weird. Let's acknowledge this. So we have a new member. Mr. Else is a new member to the group, a new member. We like our members. We love our members. If you want to support my channel, you can go down there and hit the join button down below. My membership started at $1.99. After each stream, I go over to the community page and I post our inside Discord group link that you come in and chat with us, and it's for members only, but it gives you all the inside information. All the inside information. All right. Pappa Rodgers in the chat tonight. Pappa Rodgers in the chat tonight. Pappa Rodgers in the chat. All right. It says this literally made me cringe, and it was so obvious in speculation about these murders. Posting as a sleuth, and it was like he was still studying reactions from not only the victims during the crime, but public as well. Like we were all part of his study. I don't know. I've never felt so strange about comments made in any other true crime groups as I do about these comments. Really, really crazy stuff. And again, this article went back from January of 2023 and revealed a lot of relevant information. All right, I got one more here, and then we're going to move on to the next subject. So this was back in around the 7th as well, and it goes from TMZ. And let me just, probably not a lot of new information here, but probably very similar. So Bryan Kohberger, ex-FBI agent, thinks he talked about student murders in online chat groups. Yeah, it looks pretty much like the same article that was posted over. Oh, this was kind of interesting. This was one of the posts. That's why I had this. Inside Looking. This was from the Reddit post. Speculation. Killer parked behind house, approached property through the tree line, entered sliding door and left it open, committed murders and this was what I was reading earlier, but we can actually see the actual posting on Reddit. Entered sliding glass door, left window open, committed murders, and exited sliding door. One knife, according to coroner's statement. Time of murders approximately 3:20 a.m. to 3:40 a.m. According to the car fleeing the scene on camera on Highway 8, approximately at 3:45. Vehicle left skid marks upon exit. That's interesting. I haven't heard that, and that wasn't in the PCA either. Maybe that was just something that was added in to give it effect. But see police photos below for more information. And then you see that frat dude below says, dude is solving his own crime. Psycho. Oh, shit.
Bing, bing, bong, bong, bing, bing, bing.
Or maybe maybe this one would be more appropriate. One spot I messaged read committed murders and exiting sliding door. Yeah, we already read that. And then coffin daffer here. We've already seen this. So nothing really, really new, but really interesting stuff. Very, very, very interesting stuff. Okay, let's go over. Let's see what's next on the agenda. Everybody still with me? How's the chat? Okay, let's pull up this video here. I'm going to talk about Bryan Kohberger's. Let's see. Do I have another? Yeah, that's really the same stuff. All right, what do we got? Okay, this here was again reported by the Dateline episode about Bryan Kohberger's suspicious behavior during his visit back out to Pennsylvania when he left Idaho. And, you know, his sister was very speculative as all of this information started to go out. There was some reports that she actually went out physically to his car and started looking through his car if she could find anything. So this here is a video, excuse me, from Court TV, and it says new details on Bryan Kohberger's suspicious behavior during the holidays. And I do have a pee break right now, so I will be right back. I'm going to start.
Read the affidavit, and you just find out that nobody understands exactly why, but he was stalking them, he was hunting them.
The maximum penalty for that offense, if you plead guilty or found guilty, is up to death and/or imprisonment for life. Do you understand?
Yes.
This was probably a person that blends into the background.
Yeah, I'm from Pennsylvania. We actually don't have like crosswalks.
His neighbors and people who know him superficially would probably never guess that he had any violent tendencies.
It's disgusting to think about someone that you used to hang out with all the time to do something like this.
Are you waiving your right to a speedy preliminary hearing?
Yes.
If you got to know him well, you would see layers of things that were a bit off or different.
What I do know is that Bryan did have anger issues.
You could tell there was some off about him. Very quiet, calculated about what he says. Actually very similar to how he walked into court, no different.
I'm just curious about the law. I don't mean to...
Oh, no, yeah, I can find it for you.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Everything that I've read about Bryan Kohberger would fit the type of person that we would expect for doing a crime like this.
The details about Bryan Kohberger's life before he was charged in the quadruple homicide, they are limited. But there are some things that we know about the suspect. Kohberger, who was originally from Pennsylvania, received a bachelor's degree from DeSale University in 2020. And he completed a graduate program at DeSale as well. In November of 2022, when the University of Idaho murders occurred, Kohberger was enrolled as a criminology graduate student, PhD program at nearby Washington State University Pullman campus. That's where he was pulled over for a traffic violation on campus back in November. There's body cam footage of that traffic stop that has been released, and Kohberger is seen speaking to this law enforcement officer about why he was stopped, and he doesn't really let it go.
There's not really a great option there.
Yeah, at least just slightly into the crosswalk. So, you know, yeah, where I'm from Pennsylvania, we actually don't have like crosswalks.
Oh,
so even if you're kind of slightly, there's a little bit more leeway as well. Like there are a few lines. Like there's one white line and there's another one. I think there's like a certain margin.
Yeah, the Celtics. Yes, 61-44. Love it. And if the Celtics come back and they win 4 in a row, that has never happened in NBA history. That would be unbelievable. At halftime, I had to do a little update. Celtics, for my Massachusetts fans out there, Massachusetts subscribers are watching tonight. Celtics 61-44. They need all 4 games in a row to win. Oh man, I don't know. The odds are definitely stacked against them, but hopefully they'll pull this out.
You can actually kind of put your vehicle, place your vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know laws vary state to state, but there is a law in Washington for blocking an intersection like that, proceeding through when you don't, when you're just stalling. I forget the actual verbiage. I can find it for you, but it's like stalling, blocking an intersection.
Yeah. I'm just curious about the law. I don't mean to.
Oh no, yeah, I can find it for you. Yeah.
And what happens after that? The officer goes back to her vehicle. She looks up the law, looks up the website that the law is on, and she goes back and has to read him the statute and tell him this is where you look up laws if you are interested. And he goes on for another 2 or 3 minutes back and forth with the officer. Joining us now to talk about all of this, Salt Lake City, Utah private investigator Jason Jensen, and in Nashville, Tennessee, legal commentator, former Los Angeles Deputy District Attorney, podcaster, and YouTube host of The Emily Show. Emily D. Baker is with us. Thank you both for weighing in on this. Emily, let me start with you. Is he a wannabe officer, a wannabe lawyer in the way that you hear him going back and forth with this officer?
What's interesting is that he says where he's from in Pennsylvania, they don't even have crosswalks, and then proceeds to talk about how there's more leeway and the layout of the crosswalks. So I don't know if he wants to be an attorney, but he's caught himself in his own misstatement saying there's no crosswalks and then actually they're set up differently. But I think he wanted to continue to talk, and we saw that in every single one of his traffic stops, that he has quite a lot to say. Not as much to say in court today, though, however.
Jason, what's your take on him arguing this out with the officer and really not letting it go? It goes for...
We're at, we have almost 300 people in the chat room and 174 likes right now. If we get to 200 likes, I'm going to gift out another membership tonight. I'm feeling really generous tonight.
A total of 50.
If you missed it on our 5K special. If you missed it, I gave away some Target gift cards, and I actually gave away a brand new Fire HD tablet. My goal is when we get to 10,000 subscribers, we will give out probably a bigger prize, so something bigger. So please make sure to smash that like button. We really would appreciate it. Let's get to 200 likes and I'll gift out a membership. Oh,
Smash, smash, smash.
15 minutes, this entire stop.
Your observation is spot on. He really has an argumentative spirit about these things rather than just being polite and courteous and just get through the traffic stop. Traffic violations are strict liability. You don't have to be first on it. You just have to, you're expected to know it before you enter that state and operate a motor vehicle. So if he's wrong, he's wrong. He just tries to be polite and get his way through it, but he wants to argue instead.
I want to quickly play something that has to do with his return to Pennsylvania. So this is when he was in Washington there that we just saw in video, but he went back home for the holiday season. That was in December of 2022. And according to a recent NBC Dateline episode, The Killings on King Road, Kohberger's own sister became suspicious of his involvement in the Idaho murders during his time at home.
According to our source, investigators learned the following. One of Bryan's 2 older sisters, home for the holidays, brought up an uncomfortable topic. The sister had noticed Bryan had been wearing latex gloves. She thought it odd. And at some point, the sister, quite loudly, pointed out that at the time of the murders in Moscow, Bryan had lived just a few miles away in Pullman, and that Bryan drove a white Elantra, a car that law enforcement across the nation was looking for. Add that to the gloves, and the sister said she thought the Kohberger family should consider that Bryan might have killed the 4 students in Moscow.
Now, the piece goes on, Emily, to say that his father felt strongly it was not the case. And then we know by December 30th is when SWAT was kicking in their door, the FBI coming in and taking him under arrest and seizing things inside of their family home. But this is big information for a family that's watching him as he's moving inside of their home, is it not?
This is a lot of information. I wonder if Bryan Kohberger was worried that the law enforcement was going to go through the trash and try to find fingerprints.
Chosen, don't you know? This is all the frame job. They were pulling him over and just profiling him to set him up for this huge crime. You know, remember? Obviously, I'm joking, but that's been some of the the speculation out there. You know, that was the whole thing. All the conspiracy theorists.
Prints and DNA, which is exactly what they did. And they only found familial DNA to his father. And it would be very odd indeed to have someone walking around the family home constantly wearing gloves, given all the other circumstances. I'm not surprised it raised alarm bells. I'm more surprised that the sister talked to the media about it.
Well, it sounds like they have a source who gave them that information. But Jason Jensen wanted to ask you a similar question to that reaction to that information. We know when we saw the search warrant in this case that the police did recover 4 medical style latex gloves. And it seemed a bit strange that that would have anything to do with the accusations in this case, because he wasn't in the area anymore. Why would he still need gloves when he's at home? But it seems like that answers a bit of the question.
Yeah, exactly. With him being a criminology, major, going for his doctorate, he's going to know about police techniques like trash pulls and things of that nature. So clearly, wearing his gloves at home, he's preparing for that just in such an event. So it's not a surprise, but it should have sent alarm bells for the entire family. But for the parents being in denial, they should have been the first ones to call in something like that.
All right. What do we got? What do we got next? Next on the agenda is, oh yeah, there's been some updates down on King Road. I don't know if you all have seen this yet, but there is, no, let's do this first. Let's do this first. So victims' families attend the arraignment this past week. Let's play through some of this and see what is going on from Court TV.
Kohberger, do you understand the charge in count 1, burglary?
Yes.
Do you understand the maximum penalty?
Yes.
Do you understand the charge in count 2, murder?
200 likes. Let's gift out a free membership. A free membership. Free membership. We're going to give out a membership here. Let's do this. Who's going to become a member? 1 month free on me. Welcome to the group. Whoever this goes to, get you in the Discord group for a month. Once it runs out, you have the opportunity to rejoin on your own accord and stay in the group. So let's see, Pamela. Gifted a member.
In the first degree?
Yes.
Do you understand the maximum penalty?
Yes.
Do you understand the charge in count 3, murder in the first degree?
Yes.
Do you understand the maximum penalty?
Yes.
Do you understand the charge in count 4, murder in the first degree?
Yes.
Do you understand the maximum penalty?
Yes.
Do you understand the charge in count 5, murder in the
Yes.
first degree? Do you understand the maximum penalty?
Yes.
His voice is strong, it's clear, and if he was wearing something different, you wouldn't suspect that this is an accused killer. Bryan Kohberger was there in court today for his arraignment. The judge read him the charges that are against him aloud, which included 1 count of burglary and 1 count of first-degree murder for each of the 4 victims in this case: Maddie Mogan, Xana Kernodle, Ethan Chapin, and Kaylee Gonsalves. If Kohberger is convicted of first-degree murder, he could be facing the death penalty. The judge and the attorneys made some important decisions today. We want to make sure that you are kept up to speed on how this case unfolds. Here are the key takeaways that we noticed. First, the judge entered those not guilty pleas for all 5 counts that are against Kohberger. He chose to stand silent on those. And also a trial date was set for October 2nd of this year. It's going to last, expected to last, 6 weeks. And also in just a few...
I'll be honest with you. I have been saying before, I thought this case was going to be, a lot longer away until next year. But I just find it very interesting. They're getting this. They want this to take part in October. It's crazy. I thought it was going to be sometime like I thought we were going to be like a year or two out before this even got to trial. But to push it right to October 2nd's like, that's not too far away. It's what, five months out?
Few weeks, there's going to be a hearing on the non-dissemination order or gag order that is set for June 9th. So he's going to be back in court again. And one thing that we can likely expect is that the strong family members of these victims are going to be there in court again as well. We have a special guest that is joining us now, the attorney that's representing the Gonzalez family, Shannon Gray. Shannon, it's so great.
A lot of good insight as to what's going on right now in the Gonzalez family. That's why I wanted to play this.
Great to have you on. Thank you for taking the time to speak with us. I'm sure it's been a very busy day for you, especially for this family. Can you share with us anything about what it was like for them today being inside of the courtroom for this arraignment?
Well, I think they're always happy when the judicial process gets going. We were aware of a couple weeks ago that there might be a grand jury impaneled on this case. So once
I know that could get pushed back, it could get pushed back, it could get pushed back. I get it. But I'm just saying, I think I'm surprised that it was so quick on the docket, in October, 5 months from now, and to be set as a 6-week trial. I had said that this is probably a year or two out, and it still may be push this out. But anything can happen. I think what they're doing is buying a lot of time to figure out where this is going to go. Lori and CJ was gifted a membership from Christine. Thank you, Christine, for your kindness. Welcome to the membership.
The indictment came down a few days ago, we weren't completely surprised by it. And now, really the process starts.
Look, Bryan Kohberger, again, is innocent until proven guilty, has the ability to go through the court system in his due process. Who knows? Now this is just going to give them, his defense team, especially with pleading silent, is now going to give him the ability to look at look at the sealed affidavit, see what those witnesses said inside of it, get a full scope and look at the amount of evidence that's there or the lack of evidence, and his team and him will adjourn and then figure out what they're going to do, what they're going to stack up for a defense. This also, by pleading this, giving the silent plea, will give him the opportunity to attack the indictment as well. So keep that in mind. I think if he's sunk, this is going to give them time to work out a specific plea. Maybe they get the death penalty taken off the table, and he just pleads out and goes to jail for the rest of his life. So it's something very interesting to look at. And think about as well too. This is just going to buy time. So, yeah, let's keep playing through this.
All the discovery gets turned over to the defense. There's been a trial date that's been set, a date set for the motions that have been filed already for the court, etc. So.
Shannon, there was something that Chanley brought up today. She just described how the family was all there inside of this courtroom in the gallery, waiting, even bringing the little baby who is named after the victims in this case. And I wanted to ask you about something that she brought up about it, something that seemed to bother.
It could be a strong possibility, and maybe stretching this out, standing silent. Like I said, it gives them the opportunity to look at the indictment, unseal it, see what the witnesses had stated in there, see all of the relevant information in this case. And again, if they're sunk, they make a deal with the prosecution and say, look, we'll plead guilty, maybe to a lesser charge, or we'll just plead guilty outright, but we have to take the death penalty off the table. So it'll be interesting. It'll be very
some of your clients involving the pronunciation of Kaylee's name. And I wanted, because that's been reported, I wanted to give you the opportunity to help people understand what it's like for a family to be inside of a courtroom and to be trying so hard.
Well, Reba, one night Reba says, wow, I think we might have the highest tonight with viewers higher than the 5K celebration. No, my highest stream ever was around 455. And that was on a Saturday night. That was my largest crowd. And again, it comes down to YouTube being shitheads for not getting out these notifications. And you notice some nights there's 300 people in here. Some nights there's 100 people. I just try to remind the audience, look, every Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I will be here. I will be streaming. I may do some pop-up streams in between that. I may do some different times, but you can always rest assured that I will be here Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday at 8:30 p.m. Check your schedule. Put it on your reminder. If you enjoy this show, you enjoy this channel. If you haven't already, please go down and smash that like button, subscribe, turn on your bell notifications, smash that bell notification so you get all of my notifications. I'm on Twitter. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me on Facebook as well. I'll put my Twitter handle. I'm starting to get a little bit used to it now. Starting to tweet a little bit more. There's my Twitter handle there. And I do have a Facebook group under the Opinionated Idiot. You can look that up there.
Hard to protect their loved one's legacy and the way that that legacy is portrayed.
Well, I mean, it's hard to understand sometimes the pronunciations, I guess, of the victims in this case. But, there were some mistakes made today regarding that. I'm sure that those will be corrected in the future. You always want to feel like that you're being represented and the victims are being represented in the case. And so it was disappointing, I think, for a lot of members of the family when the judge did not properly pronounce a couple of the victims' names right. And I think that's something that will be corrected moving forward.
Can you talk a little bit more about that? One of the things that I know our viewers likely have seen you multiple times, not just for this case, but you also represent Larry and Kay Woodcock, the victims in the Colt Mom murder case, Lori Vallow-Daybell, who was recently found guilty. Can you walk through as a parent what it looks like to counsel? It's a unique area of law to counsel family members who have been through the unthinkable like this and are so interested in making sure that the victims are put first. What's that look like for them? What do they want the public to know about what that looks like?
Well, it is absolutely overwhelming when a case like this, such a high-profile case.
Dr. Bob says the key to this case is the sheath. If they can't get it out, it takes the plea for the DP off. Very good observation. Lowe says, love your channel, Brian. Great content. Thank you so much. Listen, channels like this can't move on or evolve without amazing chat room people, all the amazing people that come in and watch the show, 4 nights a week. It's really, I'm really thankful for that, because it just allows me to say that, for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, that I can hold your attention. I get it. People will come and go. But it's pretty cool. And to see the channel evolving. I mean, we're at 5105 in subscribers already. So we just hit 2 days ago, 5,000 subscribers. We've already added on another 105. And now the goal is to get to 10,000 by the end of the year. That's my ultimate goal, 10,000 by the end of the year. And with the rate of the growth in the channel, I do see that happening. So again, channels like this don't go if there's no live chat, because it doesn't inspire the creator. And it's just really cool that everybody would be over here and partake in this. And I only hope, and I'm going to state this again tonight, I do other content on this channel. I don't just follow Idaho. And what I need everybody to remember is that when this case concludes, if it concludes, that there will be other content on this channel. And I follow other cases. I've been following the McFadden case. We've gone back and done some rewinds and talked about some old cases that have happened in the past. We've done some serial killer talk. So we do have other content that we do here. So keep in mind, not just because it doesn't say Idaho in the title it's still great content. You're getting the same amount of research, the same amount of same amount of passion in that. So it's important, and it's important for creators to survive off other content as well too. So this is my soapbox for the night. I tend to do that a lot, and everybody starts to kind of say things about that, but
come on, man.
Yeah, YouTube, this is a great observation. YouTube has been horrible with notifications, and everything else lately is been glitchy as hell, and it never used to be. I'm really beginning to think it was Musk who took it over. No, it's not Musk. It's just that YouTube, the way YouTube works is if you don't have 1 million subscribers, they're not going to push your content. It just happens, and that's why, and I was saying this the other night, some of the smaller channels on YouTube have the best content, and I've kind of railed about this just because my name is, the thing that annoys me is, and believe me, I'm not going to name a name, but let's just say a celebrity, okay? Maybe a celebrity that has been around. They literally can start a podcast and then literally overnight they have 1 million subscribers just because of who they are. So it really takes away from, people that are trying to make it, people that are trying to build their channel, trying to pick it up. And it's like, we're talking about the same content, but because I can't have the caliber guests like, Mike Tyson or, I don't know. I think you know what I'm getting at. Jamie Foxx or whoever, a celebrity, Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, because I can't get that quality of guest, YouTube's not going to push. And if you even go, and I showed this the other night, go over and type in YouTube podcasts, okay? And look at all of the main pages that people that are on there. It's all celebrity content. And it's unfair to smaller subscribers, people that are actually trying to make it and push their self and make an actual channel instead of just coming in with, dropping 2 podcasts and already have 1 million subscribers. It's just like, yeah. Also, I go off my train of thought.
Bing, bing, bong, bong, bing, bing, bing.
I lost my train of thought, but I think you guys know what I'm getting at. I think you know what I'm getting at. It's just frustrating, because we struggle and we put a lot of work in this. I mean, I work full time and then I do all this and have other activities too. So anyway, I'll shut the fuck up now. I just lost about 50 people. They left.
Case comes down, and they are going through enormous amount of emotions. The victims' families are. The media, for better or for worse, come at them with full force.
Oh, I know what I was going to say. If you go into a YouTube search and you type Bryan Kohberger, the first channels that you're going to get, Court TV, News Nation, whatever, CNN, whatever. That's the stuff that's going to show up first. Where I believe that smaller content creators actually have better content than the news media.
And there's hundreds of requests for interviews, requests for sound snippets, all of those things. And it's overwhelming for the families just trying to experience some grief from the get-go, trying to figure that out and what their life looks like moving forward. And, my job is to come in and to take over that and to help them go through this process and to explain the criminal justice process, because most people are never involved in the criminal justice process. And then once you get involved in it, there's a lot of complications that you have to explain to your client.
This type of content is really not well liked on YouTube. So we got to face that as well too. So we probably get a little shadow banned as well. That's why we always come on live when we do our live and say, here, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Most likely 99.9% I'm going to be here and streaming. So keep that in your head. Keep that in your head.
And then also putting out a consistent message that you want to put out, making sure the memories of the victims are number one. And that the defendant is the one that gets second bill in all of this media attention. He doesn't become first. The victim's stories, the victim's families, those things come first. And trying to ensure that the media follows that line is extremely difficult. And, the Gonzalez family is a strong, strong family, and they are connected to each other, and they are in it for the long haul. And I'm in it with them for the long haul. They are always going to be a part of my life, and we have a bond, and they're my people. And so that's.
I was just saying this the other day. After this, post your videos to Rumble. I've tried it. Rumble doesn't really go anywhere. Rumble is a very political platform. Content like this is not going to go far on there. I've tried it. It just doesn't work. I actually took my Rumble page down the other day because I got like one like on my video or something. What was I going to say? Going back to this, how the Gonzalez lawyers, and it's not on the top of my mind right now. I totally lost his name out of my head, but how he said that, they're going to be with him his whole life. And I was just saying this the other day to some of my subscribers. We were talking off air, and I said, think about it. 1122 King Road or just 1122 will always be ingrained in your head now. 1122 will always be ingrained in my head. 30 years from now, 40 years from now, if I'm still alive, 1122 will always play in my head. It's just crazy how all that stuff, sticks.
When you represent someone, you get emotionally attached. I do. That's probably my downfall at times, but I get emotionally attached to my clients, and I love that family. And I love everything about them. And it's their message that we put out, and the consistent attention towards the victims. And in this case, that is what we're moving towards. And they want justice eventually in this case. So.
Hearing from them has been both heartbreaking but encouraging in the way that they have been so strong in this. I noticed over the weekend, Dateline shared a bit of an interview that they did with them, and they mentioned that Kaylee had moved out of that home but was there just to spend a
all the way from Japan, watching from Japan tonight. It's my Japanese friend.
A final night with her friends. Can you add any information or facts around why she was there that night? And we know that Maddie was her best friend and they were together. And some of the more poignant things that her father has said is that they lived their lives together from the age of 6, and then after doing so many things together, even dying together, so tragic. But can you talk about her and that home and how she had actually already left, moving on with her life there?
YouTube's not easy. A lot of people that come after you.
Well, the Maddie and Kaylee story is a love story. It's between two friends that were friends from a young age. They were sisters, but no, not biological sisters, but sisters in every other way. Maddie's family felt like Kaylee was a daughter. Family felt like Maddie was their daughter. And that's a beautiful story in itself. There's a lot of facts that I think will come out later on about certain things that happened that night. I can't comment on any of the facts or the merits of the case in any way. And so I won't be going down that route, but it was a special bond between the two.
Did they lose his mic? Something happened.
All right, Shannon, it looks like we're having a bit of a technical difficulty. I couldn't hear the very last thing you said, but I did want to read a part of a statement that you released today on behalf of the families. You said that they would like to thank everyone for continuing to follow this case, keep the memories of Kaylee, Maddie, Xana, and Ethan alive, that they are what is important, not the defendant. Thankful to the district attorney's office who finally took this case to a grand jury, coming back with that indictment. And at the same time, we are disappointed that the judicial process has not been more efficient in addressing the gag order. This is just the beginning of a long journey for all of the families, and we are thankful for your continued support and coverage. Can you explain to us the issues from the family's perspective that you all are having with this gag order that's been put in place by the judge?
Well, it's just the gag order. I filed that motion back in February. And so we're just now, June 9th is the date that we're getting the hearing on the case. A lot of that had to do with the Associated Press filing a motion in front of the Supreme Court. And
yeah, it's very strange too, the choice of words, you know, when he said, I'm excited to be exonerated. Well, why wouldn't you say I'm excited to get to court and say that I'm not guilty? So I found that very strange as well too. And Chosen says if he was going to be exonerated, he would have pled not guilty. And yeah, I find this is all just it's just very strange. It's I think there's a lot of things adding up here and not looking good in the Kohberger corner.
And the other judge on the case, Judge Marshall, wanting to wait to see what happened with the Supreme Court. And then the Supreme Court basically said,
better, will you? I know you have been feeling good. She messaged me before the beginning of the show and she said, I just woke up and I'm going back to bed. I don't feel good. So Laura, get better. We need you back here.
That you got to go through the judicial process. You got to go through the judge that issued the gag order. And so, you know, since the arraignment, the new judge takes over, Judge. And so now he has control over the non-dissemination gag order in this case. He can make any decision that he wants. He can modify it. He can get rid of it. He can keep it. He can keep it the way it is. I mean, there's a lot of things that are going on with it. You know, today in court was a scheduling conference for it. I feel like our issues are very separate, very different from the Associated Press's issues. And the judge agreed with that. That's why my hearing is at 10:30 on the 9th, and the Associated Press's is in the afternoon at 1:30 p.m. So we have a very different take from the get-go, wanting some clarification and some direction regarding the non-dissemination order as it applies towards myself, as it applies towards the family, and among other things. So
we will certainly be watching to see what develops with that, as we are with this case. But Shannon Gray, thank you so much for your time. That's all the time that we have to be able to ask you these questions. I have so many for you, but we appreciate your time. And
all right, I'm going to bounce that out. All right, so let's do a little bit of update. We have update at King Road. If you haven't seen, there's some new video over there of what is going on. And let's take that away here. Brian Enton reports.
Little blue shack to the right of the address. It used to be that there was a security guard that used to drive a car and just park there all day and all night. But now it looks a little more permanent. And that makes us wonder if it's because it's possible that house will not be torn down quite so soon. Maybe it will stay up until trial. And right now, that date is slated for October 2. Whether it happens on that date or not, anybody's guess. Brian Enton is standing by live right now outside of 1122 King Road. That was a big surprise. Seeing that guard station, that's all I can guess it is, Brian, a guard station. What did you find out?
Yeah, it's like a little guard hut, Ashley, and you really said it perfectly. I mean, it's quiet out here. It's very, very sad, as it always is, but it's especially sort of eerie because most of the students have gone home. It's not lit out here anymore, so when it gets dark, it's pretty much totally pitch black. I was out here last night. Take a look, though. You mentioned the difference now. There used to just be the security car. Now this like hut has been erected here on a trailer. The security guard right now is actually inside that hut. That's where they stay all the time. There's a guy who works the overnight shift who I saw last night who comes on a bike and then just stays in the hut all night long. And there's also a porta potty over here if they have to use the restroom. So it does appear that they're sort of coming up with a more permanent solution to keeping an eye on the house, especially now that it doesn't appear they're tearing it down. Remember, at one point they said they were going to do it this semester once the house was handed over to the university. Then the university wanted some input from a judge when there were new questions about whether a jury might.
I think it's important. I think it's important for the jury to walk through that house and get a feeling for the environment.
Want to tour the house when there's eventually a trial, and that's the last we've heard. The university hasn't said anything else. We haven't heard from a judge, so the house still stands here.
Yeah, and the majority of the families have told us that they don't want it to be torn down. They want the opportunity for a jury to go on a jury go-see if they so desire. They've seen it in other cases. They've researched other cases, and they discovered that that worked, especially in one of the more recent cases in the South. Okay, so I do want to ask you, just 10 minutes away from where you're standing, Brian, is where Brian Kohberger's apartment was located. And I say was in past tense, and I shouldn't say was in past tense, because There doesn't seem to be a lot of turnover there either. You had a chance to go today. What did you discover?
Yeah, I went over there to Washington State and Pullman, just over the border in Washington, just to see what was going on over there. I hadn't been here in a couple of months to see if someone new had moved into the apartment or if there was any new action from the neighbors. It's still vacant. Take a look at what I found.
He's obviously being sarcastic, but yeah, there was a lot of just fucking goofy YouTube channels out there. These, I call them fringe YouTube channels that pop up. And they do a couple of videos on Idaho and inject all these like ridiculous fucking conspiracy theories so they can get up to 1,000 subscribers and start making a little bit of cash by, you know, exploiting and just putting all this bullshit crap out there. But, you know, one of the things that we're going around with these fucking secret tunnels and rooms on the first floor and how, you know, it was what was it, the Oregon Trail was connected to it or some bullshit that was going on, and there's the tunnel and I told you, and it's fucking weirdos. But I think YouTube's been trying to basically taking care of most of those channels lately. But yeah, it's a bunch of garbage. I said that if you don't have nothing educational or anything to bring to this case, then you shouldn't start a channel. You're just fucking stupid fringe people that just try to do this for some notoriety, and they really don't give a shit about these victims. Because and bottom line, all it comes down to is this: these people don't care. You know, they care about clicks and views. They don't support any of these families in the right way. They put bullshit information out there, all these conspiracy theories. And I've said I think a lot of when you get away from the facts, when you get away from what's been reported and you put bullshit out there, at the end of the day, and I've said this and I'll put my foot down right now, I think there's going to be a lot of people and a lot of channels that have egg on their face when this case concludes. They continue to support bullshit, spread bullshit, and it's just not cool. Because at the end of the day, you have to think, how do these families feel? How do you feel going to bed knowing that you're putting bullshit out there and that's going to affect these families for the rest of their lives? You know, and believe me, I've said this a million times over. Our lives go on. These families' lives have stopped. Either, you know, the life that was lost, their daughter, their son, their friend, their relative, you know, your life stops. It doesn't, that is especially something like this, you know, someone being murdered, you know, and Banfield said it the other day, you know, when she was talking to Steve Gonsalves, she said, I hate to say this, but you are part of now an exclusive club. And, you know, it sounds, you know, grisly to say things like that, but it's true. You know, Steve's life will never, ever, ever, ever be the same. And as we can see right now, you know, that family, the Gonsalves family, is very strong, and they completely supported Kaylee. And it's sad because such a strong man has just, in my opinion, the strong man has been broken down to nothing, you know, and I'm very surprised, you know, that, you know, him and Christy is standing strong together, because a lot of times this stuff breaks families apart too. You know, fallout from murder. It happened in my friend's case. You know, fallout from murder, you know, families get torn apart from that. There's a lot of guilt, a lot of guilt. And it's, you know, believe me, their lives are never going to be the same. It will never be the same. And it's sad. You know, it's sad. All right, let's keep playing through this.
This is Bryan Kohberger's apartment building here in Pullman, Washington. It's pretty quiet right now because school is out for the summer. It's all graduate students who live here, so there's still some people in town, but for the most part, it's quiet. It's apartment 201, right up these stairs, and it's still vacant. There's no furniture inside. The neighbors say that no one has been coming and going, and that's apparent by what's on the door. There's actually a letter on the door that talks about weed spraying and fertilizer, and that's all the way back from April. So the place is just sat empty, according to the neighbors. But I want to show you, you remember in the search warrants that were released, they talked about a side storage unit. It didn't end up being significant because police said they didn't find anything inside, but they said that there was a spot for a padlock. They searched it. I was curious where that was.
This is great.
This appears to be the only storage unit that I could find on the property. So that is likely the storage unit that they searched that had no significance to the case. Also interesting, you'll remember News Nation first reported that an associate of Kohberger actually had a home break-in at her apartment. That apartment is in one of the buildings back this way. She said that Kohberger actually offered to put security cameras in her apartment. Again, right here, an associate of his who lives in the same apartment complex, just in a different.
Nami got a $4.99 super chat. He said, "We should all email you. We should all email University of Idaho to send their landscaping crew over to 112 King Road to mow the weed eater their property. It would be more respectful for now." Yeah, it's very true, because the weeds are just growing up over there. That's a good observation. They should be maintaining the property as well. And yeah, I think you nailed it there. So thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate that.
Straight cash, homie.
Got you, homie. Yeah, I think it's a great idea. You know, looking at the property, the weeds growing over, it's a little sad. You know, it's sad to see the house like that. And good observation. Very, very good observation, Tsunami. Thanks for sending that out. We appreciate you. I'm gonna get on that myself.
Different building. We know that all of that was later investigated by police. Okay, so also quiet over there near the campus at University of Washington. Similar scene where a lot of the students had gone home. Quiet here.
You know, I just want to kind of put this out there. You know, I've heard some things, you know, like, oh, you know, Tsunami's a troll, da 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 da. Listen, the guy's got a great heart, and if you really knew him behind the scenes, he's a big jokester. He's a jokester. That's just his nature. And I think a lot of things that he says, you know, everybody goes, oh, he's so offensive, blah blah blah. He's a jokester, but he's a good dude, and he comes out with some good ones that really hit the heart sometimes. And I just kind of smile at some of the other things that he says. But if you personally know him the way that I know him, that I've been getting to know him, you would understand him a little bit more. Yeah, he's a gnome. He's just a free spirit, you know. He's just a free spirit kind of guy that doesn't take life too seriously. You know, I'm not saying that in a bad way. This is my observation. He's just a funny guy. But he's a great human being, and he generally cares about everybody. And I think he gets hit hard sometimes where people think that, you know, some of the things he's saying is offensive. He just does it in little ways to kind of get that scratch itched, if you know what I mean. So that was really good. I think that was a really good super chat, and thank you for pointing that out. And we should all get on that, and we should send them out. So that's good stuff. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate you. And that's why he's one of my moderators. You know, we got to have a little humor every now and then. You know, he's a good dude, though. He's a solid dude. All right, let's keep playing through this.
I just want to show you real quick. Actually, there is still this memorial outside the house where the murders happened. A lot of new flowers and cards and stuffed animals were dropped by yesterday, of course, because people came to town for that Bryan Kohberger.
Rosen, great deal, dude. Candy, great. Heather, great. Christine, from day one. Laura, AZ. Dr. Bob, you know, these are all here. Oh, no, the Celtics are going to lose. Damn it.
Kerri. Ashley.
You know, Brian, I have to say it's sort of nice to see that there's fresh flowers there, because I started to feel as though it was that lonely environment with all the kids gone. Maybe people would forget to, you know, to update that memorial. So it's kind of.
You see the impossible. The Celtics come back and win 4 in a row. It's never happened in the NBA. It'd be unbelievable.
Nice to know that people
recognize this new member, the new member to the group, like we say here in Boston, new member. Casey's joined the membership group. Thank you so much for your member. Thank you, Casey. Appreciate you. All right, let's keep playing through.
People haven't forgotten, and they're still bringing, you know, something to show their respect. Brian, great job. Thank you so much for that.
Thanks, Ash.
Brian Enton, as always.
All right, let's keep playing this. Enton's got another video they went over, and a little bit more reporting here.
Months after an announcement that the house where 4 college students were brutally murdered would be demolished, the Moscow, Idaho home still stands. The home now boarded up and with security, and it's now been 1 day since the suspected killer, Bryan Kohberger, appeared in an Idaho court. Kohberger stood silent, prompting the judge to enter a not guilty plea for each of his 5 indictments. The 28-year-old former criminology student accused of brutally killing the 4 students last November. Many family members of the victims choosing to be inside that courtroom yesterday. Senior national correspondent Brian Inton joins us live from Moscow. Brian was also inside that courtroom yesterday, but now you are in front of that home. Do we know what's next for this property?
Yeah, it's a good question, Nicole. You know, the plan was for this property to be torn down. It wasn't even supposed to be standing anymore. But you see behind me, it's still here. Let me show you. It looks different than last time we were here. They've got this fencing all the way around it. All of the windows are boarded up. It looks like they've disconnected the power. And then there is this little blue security hut outside, which is new. There's a security guard inside. He's actually in there right now. They're in there 24 hours a day. I was here last night and the guy was in there.
So the Discord chat, I'm going to post the link after the stream, and it's only for members only. You just got to go to my community board. The link will be in there. When you come in to the top of the chat, I've pinned chat rules. Just go over, read the rules. And what I need you to do when you come in, just change your name to your screen name here on YouTube, so we can just keep track. If you're not paid up, I'll just message you, say, hey, your membership is due. If you don't pay, then gotta leave the group until you come back. You're always welcome back when you paid for. It's only for members only. Okay, let's keep playing here. You all want me to keep going because I can do another 45 minutes. I can do another hour. I can do another 2 hours. It doesn't matter. Give me a thumbs up if you want me to keep going, because the crowd is thinning a little bit. Yeah, I'll post my... So here's the thing. So I did a post office box for 3 months. I haven't received one postcard or any mail. So in June, and believe me, having a post office box is expensive. But I'll re-up it if I can get some postcards. That was kind of the point in doing it. But I'll re-up it. And the other thing too is when I send mail, I just don't want people having my personal address. But send me some postcards. Been waiting for postcards. But I'll post the hang on. I'll post my post office box in there in the chat, and then we'll get through this and I'll keep going because everybody wants me to keep going. I will keep going. Awesome. Let's do this. Let's do this. But yeah, seriously, if I'm not going to get any mail, I'm probably just going to terminate the box because it's expensive. I don't know why it's so expensive, but it is. It's kind of silly that it's that expensive what I'm paying. You can send. Here is my post office box. No problem, Victorine. Do what you got to do. You can always go back and watch the replay if you'd like. All right, let's keep playing this, and then we're going to get into a little bit.
In the middle of the night. He used to have a security officer who sat out here in a car, but now since this is apparently not being torn down anytime soon, they have put this little hut out here that he basically just stays in 24 hours a day. There's even like a porta potty out here for him to use the restroom. So it's kind of interesting. Basically, the house. The owner of the house, after all of this happened, sold or actually gave the house to the University of Idaho. The University of Idaho said they wanted to tear the house down just because it was just hard having it here with all the students living in this area. Obviously hard to walk by every day. They were going to turn it into a memorial or some kind of garden. But then there were concerns that perhaps the house needed to stay because of a potential trial. Would the jurors want to walk through the house and see it for themselves? So now it appears the house will stay, at least for now. They're hoping that the judge will rule on whether or not it should be torn down or not, but there hasn't been a ruling yet. As for a trial, it was big news yesterday, Nicole. Now a date has been set, October 2nd. That is at least...
Yeah, so I have mine at a UPS store. I probably should get out of there. I should probably just go to the actual post office once this one... terminates. I think it terminates in June. That's a good idea. Yeah, but I'm paying a shit ton of money for like 3 months, and then I was like, well, what if I want to do it for a year? Can I just pay the proration? And they're like, no, you have to pay for the full year. I'm like, I do have it in the about section. Actually, no, I don't have that. That's a pretty good idea. But I'm like, what if I just pay the prorated rate? And they're like, oh no, you can't do that. You have to pay for the whole year. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm not paying for the whole year.
The date for now for Bryan Kohberger to go on trial. We're told that it will last 4 to 6 weeks, and it's possible that this house will not be torn down, and that this is a place that the jurors will be taking to see for themselves. Nicole?
Yeah, we will certainly see. Brian, before we let you go, I mean, we can tell that it's quiet out there now, but is that an area, because I know Moscow, Idaho itself is a pretty small knit community there, but is the house a scene where a lot of people are coming to visit, coming to just to look, to be, to reflect?
Yeah, let me show you actually. There's another news crew set up here, but we can kind of walk around. You can see that there's a little memorial that has been started out here. A lot of this stuff is new. With the hearing happening yesterday, there were people that came to town to come by, pay their respects at the house. So yeah, it has sort of become a place where people come and pay their respects. School's out for summer right now, so a lot of the students are gone. But when school's in session, I mean, kids live all over this area. So you've got students walking back and forth really all day and night.
Yeah, so it's such a tough area, very brutal scene there. Brian, thank you so much. We appreciate it. And as Brian just said, that trial date now set.
All right, we're good with that. All right, let's get into this. Did Kohberger reveal his defense? Let's play this. Banfield, everybody.
I asked everybody. Like, I asked everybody. Everybody who knows a lot about the law. I called. I texted, I emailed, and I said, why did Bryan Kohberger refuse to enter a plea? Because he did everything else, right? He answered every question the judge had. Yes, no, yes, I do, thank you. He was very engaged. And then came the most important question of the day, and he stiffs the judge. He wouldn't say guilty or not guilty. So I asked everybody, what was that about? Is it strategy? Because the judge just entered a plea anyway. And there was only one person who gave me an answer that I thought, well, that makes sense. And it turns out she's a criminal defense attorney in Idaho. And I think she knows what she's talking about, because this is what she said.
Rocker.
There are a lot of attorneys in Idaho who actually believe that if you stand silent when it comes to a grand jury indictment, it gives you more of an advantage when it comes to challenging that grand jury indictment. For various legal reasons. There is a little bit of support in that for Idaho law. I don't personally think that it would make a difference, but my impression is that this is likely just Ann Taylor's method, par for the course for her, when she has a client in the situation where they're going to be potentially challenging a grand jury indictment. She stands silent as opposed to entering that not guilty plea.
And that very smart lady is Jessica Bublitz, criminal defense attorney practicing in Idaho, so she would know. Well, look at you, lady. You called it last night. So is this what we're seeing with the motion that he put forward today? Give me the grand jury indictment. Unseal it. I want to see everything I can. Is that setting the table to fight the indictment as opposed to actually fight the mess, the uphill battle that he's got?
Yes, right now, if he can, absolutely. That is what this is setting up for. He's asked right now to produce it. It will only be produced to him and his attorney. It's still going to remain sealed for everybody else. But he's going to want to at least look at what the witnesses said. What did they say when they were under oath? What evidence did they give? Because right now he just has reports or interviews, but nothing under oath as of yet. And then he'll look for defects, and absolutely, if he can pick this apart and find something he can challenge, he will. Will he succeed? Absolutely not. These challenges very, very rarely actually succeed. But this is just part of the process that he's going through.
You answered my next question. Will it succeed? Because I think a lot of people don't like loopholes. You know, we don't like loopholes. Right. I get why they exist. So here's another question down this road, because obviously he wants to see what's in the grand jury process. He's not allowed to see the deliberations. That's the one thing that's off limits from the secret process. But are the rest of us, like if he gets his way and this grand jury process is unsealed, do we in the public also get to have a peekaboo?
never, ever see the contents of this grand jury proceeding. It will remain sealed. There are several rules in Idaho that keep grand jury processes and any information from even being copied or shared or disclosed to anybody. There's a very tight rein on this information.
So what was the point of all of this? What was the point of this motion?
Well, he has to file it just to produce it for him. So the motion, the rule that he filed it under, is just asking to give him the information and his attorney the information because he doesn't have it. So 2 to 3 weeks from now, he will get to see for the first time what some of this evidence is against him. He'll get to see, did Bethany testify under oath at the grand jury proceeding? What did she say?
I talked about this all earlier. So what happens now when he stood silent, it gives him the opportunity to get that whole, you know, I'm basically repeating what I said, but I said this earlier, you know, getting to see that whole unsealed indictment and see what's in there, to start combing through all of this evidence.
Say, was it what they anticipated she might have said? Did Dylan testify? Was it consistent with what she said before? And so he will really pick through all of this testimony and see how strong the evidence really is, even when under oath.
Yeah, even though it's unlikely, he's unlikely to prevail at being able to, you know, find the needle in the haystack, something that will actually absolve him of these, you know, this indictment. He'll get at least a hint of what's ahead. You know, there's a reason why we called you, Jessica, because you called it last night and then you explained it again today. Thank you for this. Appreciate it.
Thank you for watching. Go.
All right, let's get to the last segment of this evening. This is Kerri Rawson. She's the daughter of the BTK killer, and believe it or not, I've been actually corresponding a lot with her on Twitter lately. So Kerri, if you're watching this, I know that you I'm loaded into your list of podcasts that you listen to, so I do appreciate that. And her and I were actually tweeting back and forth for a little while today. So what I want to do is pull up this video. She recently did a video, an interview on Law and Crime Network with Jesse Weber, and she talks about the parallels between the BTK killer and her father. BTK killer, her father, and Bryan Kohberger, with them both standing silent and pleading silence. So let's listen to what she had to say here, and it's just very strange. There's so much wild parallels between BTK and her father, and obviously we know that Kohberger studied under a professor that actually wrote a book on BTK killer, and that professor right now is slighting my mind. So I apologize. It's late. I want to say Megan Marshall. Is that her last name? I could be wrong.
Because Mr. Kohberger is standing silent, I'm going to enter not guilty pleas on each charge.
Accused killer Bryan Kohberger had an interesting arraignment by standing silent. Kerri Rawson, the daughter of infamous serial killer BTK, knows about that all too well when her father did the same. She sits down to discuss the similarities and what we should be thinking about with the alleged murderer of the Idaho Four. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. There is always so much to discuss regarding Bryan Kohberger. So many twists, turns, odd aspects of the case. And this, of course, is the former PhD grad student who is accused of burglarizing a Moscow, Idaho college house and then murdering 4 college students inside. Madison Mogen, Zana Kernodle, Ethan Chapin, and Kaylee Gonsalves. And as Kohberger was just indicted by a grand jury and arraigned on his 5 felony charges, and as this case progresses towards trial, we want to get some perspective. I want to start with a very special guest. I'm joined right now by Kerri Rawson, New York Times best-selling author of A Serial Killer's Daughter, because she is the daughter of Dennis Rader, the serial killer known as BT.
Laura is in the chat. Good to see you, Laura. Laura, I want to wish you luck. I don't know if you've started yet, but if everybody doesn't know, Laura is a professional poker player. She actually will be playing in the World Series of Poker, and I think she said it starts this weekend or next week. But yeah, good luck to you. Good to see you over here. Haven't seen you in a while.
BTK, who murdered 10 people over the course of 17 years. Kerri, thank you so much for coming on to Sidebar. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
One of the reasons we really wanted to have you on is because Kohberger, during his arraignment, instead of actually pleading not guilty to the charges that were read against him, he chose instead to stand silent. And the court basically entered the not guilty pleas on his behalf because he didn't say anything.
Yes.
And we were all thinking, why does this sound familiar? Why does this sound familiar? Well, it's my understanding your father did the exact same thing, right?
Yeah, and it had been a while since I wrote my book. So I'm the best-selling author of A Serial Killer's Daughter. And I actually had wrote about my dad standing silent. And then with everything going on, I totally forgot that Monday. And so I forgot to tell media. And then my friend on Twitter is the one that reminded everybody. So my father was arrested in February of 2005. I was notified that he was the BTK serial killer by the FBI. So we knew right away that first weekend he was guilty. The FBI called us and told us that my dad was confessing the first night to 10 murders, including children. They told us they had found souvenirs.
Yeah, Kerri's great. I've conversed with her. Actually, I was conversing a lot with her today via Twitter, and she's very nice. And listen, she gets a lot of shit on Twitter, but she handles it well, and she puts out a lot of great and relevant information to a lot of cases out there. So I definitely respect her. Go over and support her if you can. You can go find her on Twitter. I'll do that for her. Let me drop her Twitter in here if you're not following her on Twitter. I'm just getting kind of caught up on Twitter. I've tried to stay away from it as much as I can because I still think it's kind of wacky and weird. But I'll drop her Twitter in the chat if you all want to go over and support her. She could use your support. But there's Kerri's right there. She's really great, and she will converse with you if you tweet at her. So
From the crime scenes and underneath our floorboards, driver's licenses, jewelry, things like that. So we knew right away, even before the public did, that my dad was guilty. And so we started writing my dad's letters that spring and saying, hey, if you're guilty, you should man up and do the right thing and take the plea. And my family called him, visited him, talked on the phone. And so you see these ongoing conversations between my dad and my family and his friends for months. My dad was actually trying to decide if he should plead guilty, if he wanted a trial. He said he needed to see the evidence.
Well, Christine, it's like anybody. When you're a public figure, you put yourself out there. There is so many amount of trolls. I get shit on here too. Look at the people that come in the chat, people that leave comments. It unfortunately becomes it's part of the game. It's part of the whole game. And a lot of this is a game for people. Twitter is a fucking hellscape. I stay off it as much as I can. I'll just tweet out if I'm having shows. I might converse with people that, I have a little bit of a relationship with, but I'm not on there very much. It's not my space. YouTube is my space.
And my mom and I were like, what? What? You did this. What is it you need to see that they have on you? He was very conflicted by his duties to his family. He didn't want all this really bad stuff coming out. It all came out anyway. And he was warning us in letters.
I'd love to have it
all this
over here
stuff's
sometime.
out. Basically, about my father being in bondage and dressed up and all these horrible things he did with his murders. And so we're just learning a little bit about my dad. And literally a lot of stuff came out in court after he pled. So mid-April, then he's warning us. He says, look, I got an arraignment coming up.
Yeah, you know what? I have some of these letters. So if I may,
Yeah.
I'll read you. Let me
Go
read
ahead.
some of them. One was, we start on pre-arraignment next week on April 19th. The Dog and Pony Show will start. Media and rest is a mess. Then he goes on to say in a different one, there will be a non-guilty plea at some point that will give us time to review more evidence. At some point, we will make final plea. So much for all the legal. And then in another one, arraignment is May 3rd. My attorneys want me to plead not guilty to buy some time to decide our final plea. Bottom line, if I plead not guilty, I'm not selling the family out at this time. I need time to make a final decision.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going back and forth, and we didn't know what he was going to do. And so behind the scenes, we were working with the public defenders. So he had a team of public defenders, and they were in our corner, victims supporting us, telling us they would pick us up from the airport, take care of us. Now, we didn't go to court, but they kept us in the loop the whole time of what was going on with my father. And they they didn't even really know
Thank you
how to
so
work with
much.
him. He was a very difficult defendant, obviously, to work
Thank you.
with. But they were very patient and kind with him and with my family. And so then on May 3rd, he did stand silent. Um, I think he didn't want it to be on the record that he was not guilty because he knew he was guilty. So he was like, he had wrote us about, he was trying to see if he like qualified for the insanity defense, which of course he didn't. But there's a conversation where he was talking to his lawyers, like, can I get the insanity defense and be put in like a mental hospital versus, you know, prison? And we were having that conversation, and I was asking people, can my dad, you know, take the insanity defense? And they're like, no, he's not insane. He knew what he was doing. And of course, I believe that now. But back then, I even thought, what if there's a death penalty? I didn't know. And it wasn't in play at the time for my father's crimes. So really, my dad was taking us on one of his narcissistic, psychopathic rides for months, basically trying to figure out what he was going to do.
I can
And we were
totally-
begging him, like, please just man up and do it for our family, because we were going to have to be on the stand. We would have to testify. I would have
Yeah.
had to testify. And so finally, then he did stand silent. I think just because he didn't want it on the record. And then 6 weeks later, he did take the plea, but we didn't know what he was going to do that day. And I'm not even sure his defense did.
I think this is very, very interesting and very comparable too. I mean, we know that Kohberger studied BTK. You know, we know that, you know, the case now is what, 5 months away. This could turn into a plea. Like I said, we were talking about this earlier. It could be, you know, somewhere where they wanted to look at the totality of the evidence, what was said against him, and, you know, maybe his attorneys look at him and say, hey, you know, we ain't got a shot in the game here. Then they try to work with the prosecution and get some kind of deal. But it's all speculation. Again, we really don't know. But I think this is a really great interview, and it gives a good insight as to what happened with her father and just that parallel comparison to Bryan Kohberger.
And then when my dad did plead guilty to the 10 murders in late June of 2005, he thought all he was going to have to say is, I'm guilty on this offense. And the judge was like, no. And the judge was like, you're going to have to prove and confess that you did this. And so the judge asked him things like, you know, on what date, what is the address, who was the victim? And my narcissistic father was really thrown, and you can see it on his face, and he gets really mad and upset. And then he can't even remember all the details, like victims' names, addresses.
And the thing that's so curious about it from a legal point of view, whether the defendant says not guilty or has the court enter it on his behalf, it has the same practical effect. And we're trying to understand, why would Bryan Kohberger have chosen to stand silent? And there's been people who said, well, maybe he's trying to open himself up for favorable negotiations because the death penalty could be on the table here. There's no insanity defense in Idaho, so we put that away. That's not on the table for him. Some have been saying, well, maybe he doesn't want the optics of him in court saying not guilty. It doesn't look right that he's trying to fight this. In your experience, based on what you saw with your father, what do you think's going on here with Kohberger?
I don't know. Based on Kohberger's mannerisms, his body, the way he was walking, I understand he probably had a vest on. Does he have diminished capacity? And that's maybe something you can talk about. Is there some sort of diminished capacity clause in Idaho, from what I'm hearing, versus an insanity defense?
It's like a limit. It's limited, and I don't think he's going to go that route based on what we've seen. It seems that they're going to strike at evidence that he didn't do it. That, you know, that they have maybe some exculpatory evidence that he's not the killer. I just think it's so interesting why a defendant, I think you're right. I think there might be something optics wise. So it seems like your father didn't want that on the record. He didn't want it on the record that he said not guilty for a variety of different reasons. When you see what your father did and you see what Kohberger did, do you see those similarities?
Well, my father's a very interesting individual. He has rules and morals and standards of his own. He has lines he doesn't cross. So he appeared to be very law abiding, a very strong family man, very like OCD with like documents and data. To me, Kohberger strikes me the same way as somebody with this PhD, you know, getting a PhD in like cyber forensics. Like I could tell. So my dad, I don't think, to me, it would have been my dad lying. And my public, the way everybody perceived my father publicly, my father never lied. Of course, he's a pathological liar. So he was just all twisted up. and didn't know really what to do. And when my dad stood silent and they put in the non-guilty, he was crying. My father, a psychopathic murderer, was crying at the end of that because it was bothering him so much.
Wow.
Like, I think he maybe just wanted to take the guilty. With Kohberger, maybe he just doesn't know if he is going to take a guilty plea. Maybe he needs more time. I don't think he just wanted to put it on the record out of his mouth. And you could tell if you watched the video, the 2-minute clip of the judge reading off the charges and reading the victims' names, and then that long number. Kohberger's very mad, like his jaw's popping and his veins are popping. And then when the judge gets the victims' names wrong, it looks like Kohberger's mouthing Zaina and Kaylee. Like, either he's really, really irritated that the judge doesn't know as much as him, or like has kind of smeared his prize.
Interesting.
And listen, I want to kind of touch on that. I know that there's been, just a little bit about, Laura and I watched the indictment video, the arraignment the other day, and we were really just talking about like, it was the first video that we've seen of Kohberger since essentially January. And you're getting this first look at him, and you're studying him and going, look at him and look at him move, and you're just kind of looking for something, I guess. I think a lot of us have done that, but you got to realize, this guy's been in prison too. He's probably been solitary confinement. He's now open up to color and heat and cold, and it's all his sensories are wide open. I'm not making excuses for him, but I'm just saying that you got to kind of take some of that into account as well too, if you want to see it kind of down the middle. I think there's probably some things to read into the body language as well too. But again, you're in a sensory overload, so things are very heightened as well, and I'm sure adrenaline is running and all that stuff too. So. But it is interesting. It is interesting to go back and look at that body language.
We had a body language expert on our prior sidebar talking about the mannerisms of demeanor of Bryan Kohberger and what that says. While I have you here, there is another connection between your father and Kohberger, and that is that I saw this report that your father, who is serving 10 consecutive life sentences, has seemingly expressed some sympathy for Kohberger. He said, since I spent from February 2005 to April 2005 in a cell by myself, I know how he feels, very lonely. And soon letters started to come in. I read a lot of the Bible and wrote poetry. I don't know if you had an opportunity to see those comments from your father, but I was curious what you made of that.
Oh yeah, I see everything. I got
Impossible.
it on Google Alerts so I can keep track of what my father's doing.
Yep.
I mean, so when my father was arrested, he realized basically the gig was up and that everything was going to come out. And he had a very hard time understanding what had happened, because for my father, he always knew he was BTK. So he knew he was BTK and a family man. And he walked around with a secret for 31 years. And so he didn't understand. He assumed our family just had accepted him. I think he's not all there, obviously. And so when we found out, of course, everything changed. And he didn't understand what had happened. Like, where did my family go? Why aren't they just my family? And then he realized we were the 8th victim family. And he was very rattled, lonely, embarrassed, depressed, suicidal at times those first months. And honestly, I don't think my father wanted to be in court. He's very uncomfortable in court, very uncomfortable around law enforcement, lawyers, professionals. And he was no longer in control. So when you put somebody like my dad or Kohberger in court, they're no longer in control. They have absolutely no control. And so maybe Kohberger standing silent was a little bit of just exerting just a tiny bit of Kohberger control.
And the fact that your father has this sympathy for him and what he's going through.
I mean, who else would know what it's like to be be accused as an infamous criminal than an infamous criminal? Plus, my dad's just trying to assert himself back into the media and make himself relevant.
By the way, I before I let you go, I had to ask you about something. So we know that Kohberger, before he was arrested, as I mentioned, he was studying criminology, and he was being taught by Dr. Catherine Ramsland, who's actually the leading authority on the BTK killings. My understanding at the time of this recording, she has still not come out and spoken about the Kohberger case. That connection, Dr. Catherine Ramsland, I was curious what you thought about that.
It was a shocker to me. So I was really relieved when Kohberger was arrested. Very relieved on December 30th. And then about 30 seconds later, it started coming out that he was a student under Dr. Ramsland at DeSales University for his master's program and probably the end of his bachelor's. And then I had PTSD and it just completely flared up. Just awful. Dr. Ramsland co-wrote a book with my father about my father's crimes. They're very close, like colleagues, friends. She goes and visits, calls him, they play chess. So the fact that a so-called expert on serial killers, not just my dad, but a so-called expert on serial killers and psychopaths missed one right under her nose. Plus, I believe recommended him for the PhD program in Washington is what the word is. It's not, I mean, it happens. I mean, my dad was under our nose for 30 years. So it happens. It's just concerning to me. And she's not doing media, but I think it's probably because the gag, or she's going to be called as a witness.
Have you heard from her at all?
No, we're not in direct touch anymore. We
Gotcha.
don't have an ongoing relationship.
Well, listen, I think that this is, it's an interesting study with Kohberger. It's eerie similarities with your father. Kerri, I know this is always difficult to talk about. So not only do we appreciate you taking the time to come onto Sidebar, but also revisiting these moments in your life. We really appreciate it. And thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, that was Kerri Rawson, and really great interview to give her comparison there and just give her a little bit more insight to about when her father stood in the silent plea and gave us a little bit of a background of how that all worked in his case. And we may see some similarities here in the Bryan Kohberger case. Listen, we're at about the 2.5-hour mark. I think I'm going to wrap this one up. I want to thank everybody for hanging out this evening. Let's look at the channel update here, the sub count. We need to do a sub count. Let's do a sub count before we get off. Subs are at 5114 as we go off the air today. I mean, look at this. We just celebrated 5,000 the other day. We just picked up another 114 new subscribers on the channel. The big board has been updated. I want to thank all the new subscribers that have come over here, all the new people that have joined the membership group. I have updated the Discord link inside the community page. You can go over there and check that out. I would appreciate it. 2.5-hour banger tonight. Not too bad. Started out as a terrible show with my microphone issues, but I'm glad that we're back in the game. We're in the game. I want to thank all of my mods, all the great people that came over and chatted this evening. I will be back. Let me ask before you guys all take off, and I don't even have a place marker yet, but let's look at this poll quick. Wow. So we got, let's see the poll. Do you think that BK is Pappa Rodgers? 61% yes, 38% no, 235 votes. Pretty damn good. Let me ask you all a question. I know that here in America, it is Memorial Day weekend this weekend. Will you all be around on Saturday if I do a stream? If you are going to be around, give me a thumbs up and I will put a stream together for Saturday. If not, probably going to take the weekend off and I'll be back in my next week rotation. So give me some thumbs up before you all take off. Give me a thumbs up. Thumbs up. All right. 50-50 tsunami. Oh, snap. Sharon becomes a new member. Thank you so much. The member. All right. Maybe we'll put a show together on Saturday. See how Laura's feeling. We'll come back. I'd love sometime to get some of my members on because they have some really great insights into the Kohberger case and their brains just all work a little bit different than mine. And I love hearing what they have to say and bring to this case. So do I know if there'll be a document dump on Friday afternoon? I'm not too sure, but it seems like every Monday and Friday that's been dumped. I know there's been some new documents put up. I personally haven't even had a chance to look at them yet, but I'll drop the document dump in the stream like I always do. If you want to catch up on the latest and greatest documents, here's the documents to Kohberger. Maybe we get some new information on, well, you won't hear anything Monday because Monday's Memorial Day, probably Tuesday. Yes, happy birthday, Maddie. Today is Maddie's birthday, and we need to celebrate that. So I'll be back on Saturday. I'll put the thumbnail up. Maybe we'll talk a little bit more Kohberger on Super Saturday, Saturday Night Live here. We'll take some calls and go from there. But thanks to all those new subscribers, all the new members, and all of my mods and all of the chatters this evening. I appreciate all the support. Without this channel, without you as subscribers, members, and contributors, this channel cannot go. So you all have a great night. I'll be back on Saturday evening. Let me look at my schedule. I think I'm going to be able to do an 8:30 show. Let me take a look. What is my schedule for Saturday? Saturday. I think I'll be here for an 8:30 show. If not, maybe 9 o'clock. All right, all. Have a good night. Stay safe. I'll see you guys back here on Saturday. Bye.